tremendous that we are actually here today, and how we got here is phenomenal as well. So we're a small little committee that started up in Ushing Park in Killeshin with a cup of tea just literally a few months ago, and we were brought together by Louise Moore, who is here just in front of me here, and Louise returned to Carlow from Australia in 2021, and with her beautiful little son Ushing and her little family. And then having to experience the support services in Australia for Ushing and to come here to Ireland and to see how far behind we are and brought us all together. I have 2 grandchildren with autism, I have a son with autism. So we all understand, we all walk the walk and we can talk the talk. So we decided that we'd get together and we would form Autism Heroes, which we have done so today, and we want to thank everybody that has made the effort and come out today to support us. And our main aim, I suppose, of the group is to fight for our children and to give them what they deserve, the services they deserve, and the education they deserve. And we will get there. We're a strong little group. We will be looking for support from everybody, that are in the same shoes as we're in. So, with further ado, after my little spiel, I want to invite Louise up to launch Autism Heroes today. So Louise, would you like to start?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you who turned up to support us today. To our sponsors, our committee, speakers and exhibitors, we're so grateful, so thank you. Autism Heroes started with a conversation over 4 years ago with my husband and the CEO of the Autism Association of Western Australia, Joan McKenna Kerr. We talked about the idea of returning to Ireland, but knew the services for our son Oisin were not as available as they were in Australia. We knew we had to make a choice between family or services for our boy. Fast forward 2021, we left our life in Australia and we returned home to Ireland. The shock and realisation of how poor the services were here was the driving force behind reigniting our idea and the start of Autism Heroes. The blue in our logo represents the ocean, Oisin's favourite place to be, especially with Ocean Heroes, the surfing academy he attended for people on the spectrum. The stars represent Little Stars, the early intervention centre he attended at the AAWA. The red star in the middle represents Oisin, his favourite colour, an idea put together by cousin Chloe. The video Chloe's putting up now is a documentary that the Autism Association done on Oisin from where he started to where he is now today. This was 2 years ago.
When you look at Oisin, you see a really happy, bubbly, quite confident child. But what you don't see is the struggles behind all of that, or what we've had to do to get him to that point. When we got the diagnosis, it was a mixture of feelings. Like, there was a huge sadness that I had because I suppose I didn't want my son to have a label. I think I was just scared because I didn't know how to move forward with a child on the spectrum. From the minute he opens his eyes, it's, I don't want this, I don't want that, I can't, and it's screaming, and to the point that, like, a 7-year-old, we'd have to dress him to get him to get out the door. When he's that escalated, sometimes there's nothing you can do, you just sit there and be with him. There's a certain guilt as well that you have, because you question yourself as a parent, like, am I a good parent? Like, I can't help my child. We couldn't go into certain shops, and he has that hands over his eyes. his lights were too bright or his hands over his ears because it was too loud in the shop. He had a couple of words and then stopped talking. So he had mama, dada, you know, the usual ones, and then completely stopped talking. We hadn't a clue how to bring on his speech. Without the Autism Association, I dread to think where we would be.
So Asheen is an amazing example of why early intervention services are so important for children on the spectrum. You can just look at the amount of progress that he has had over the course of his therapy with us. Starting back when he was 4 years old to now, we can just see an incredible amount of change in those life skills such as communication, such as social interaction, such as his gross motor development, also looking at his emotional awareness and sensory processing and regulation.
For us, our main support is, other than our family, is the Autism Association, because they've given us the tools to be able to handle these situations.
I guess I like to look at early intervention as a stepping stone. We are wanting to be able to give him the most independence that we can, moving into that adult life to live the most fulfilling, happy life that he can.
We often talk about what if we hadn't had early intervention. You know, we never would have known how amazing he could be, you know, or the potential that he could have.
His strengths are his passions and the way he speaks about them.
He loves space. He knew, by about 3, he knew all the planets.
He just, like I said, blows my mind with how far he's come.
He adores surfing, and he gets so excited, you know, to go. And for a while, we didn't have that thing. And then when we found surfing, it was like, oh my goodness, we found it. We found his niche.
He talks about being in the water, being out there on his surfboard, standing up on the wave, and I just think that is so important for him.
Autism is an invisible disability, and I think if there was just more awareness and more understanding from people and, you know, kids and especially adults, you know, it would be a happier space. This world isn't built for kids on the spectrum, is it? You know, and we need to have it be everyone's world, you know, and not just what society sees as normal, you know. It's a world for everyone.
As thankful as we are for Australia and every single service provider we had out there, our focus is now on Ireland. My goal is to help as many families as I possibly can, which includes advocacy, paired family support, and services from early intervention right through to adulthood. I know it's no easy task, but I believe we can do it together. Until then, and our goal is reached, I promise to be a support, an ally, and a friend to anyone who needs it. Today, let's celebrate our little hero, our family, and our friends. Sorry. Happy World Autism Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. That very good speech. So now I want to welcome up Amy from Kneaders to the stage for her speech and discussion, and then after that we're going to take some questions and answers as well. So thank you very much, Amy. Welcome to the stage.
Good afternoon and happy World Autism Day. So Support, knowledge and inclusion. 3 things that we all want for our children. 3 things that we need as parents. 3 things that are vital for development. 3 things that can be hard to find without overcoming obstacles and pushing through boundaries that prevent us from accessing the information and services that we need to. Currently, there are over 18,000 children and families across Ireland who are waiting for initial contact from disability network teams. And there are over 110,000 children who are on the HSE waiting list for physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech and language therapies, dietetics, and disability services. There are over 5,000 children in the southeast of Ireland alone waiting for occupational therapy assessments. This is a staggering number of children and families waiting for vital therapies and interventions through the public health system, which is fueled each year by a shortage of therapists, with a third of positions available for therapists within the HSE remaining vacant in 2023. The feelings of frustration and being at a loss as to what to do if turning to private assessments and therapy is not an option is overwhelming, worrying and frightening. Starting a parenting journey on a path that you didn't know you would be on is difficult when you cannot access the information you need, speak to the people who can help you, and you don't know where to find your community or your support network. I am a mum of 3 wonderful girls. My eldest, who is 9, is autistic. We have faced the same battles as some of you have, and we are still experiencing obstacles to get her the support and help she needs every day. Creating a safe, non-judgmental and empowering community for children with additional needs, but also for parents and caregivers through little needs, is something that I am very passionate about. Being able to walk into a room knowing that you can ask a question and get an answer, guidance, relatable experience, or good, honest advice from a peer is priceless. It can change your day or your experience. Which TD do I approach for help with an issue? A therapist has opened waiting lists for new clients. A school is opening a new ASD unit. A recommendation for which is the best solicitor for medical negligence. Birthday parties that provide an understanding, inclusive environment. What do I do if the CD&T team have no record of my child's appointment? Where can I buy those toys from? They would really help my child. How do I take my child to the dentist, and is there a dentist who has experience with autistic children? Who do I take my child to for a private assessment? My child does not speak and has been on the waiting list for PH for 3 years, and I am exhausted. All of these things have been asked or discussed by parents during our weekly sensory group. Frustrations vented, stories shared, worries halved, tears of happiness and relief at the advice from those who have walked that path already. A community that empowers and supports you and your child is imperative for your mental well-being. I'm often asked why I run 2 separate local weekly sensory groups, one for children who are in mainstream and one for children with additional needs. Why not just make it one inclusive group? For me, inclusion means more than just a suitable activity for all children to be able to join in with. It means creating a safe, understanding, non-judgmental space for both the child and their caregiver. It means understanding and providing a fun social experience where children with additional needs can explore and regulate themselves throughout the entire class without becoming overwhelmed, overstimulated and frustrated. A space where behaviour towards sharing, being in a sociable setting, trying new scents, new textures and exploring new feelings is understood, welcome and celebrated. It is about providing children with additional needs and their families their own space to build connections, make relationships, be able to relax in, and to make their own community. Little Kneaders was created to provide support to children. It has organically grown to support parents, caregivers, schools, teachers, SNAs, and many more. By providing education, supplying you with knowledge for your armour, and creating a community, we are able to support more children and families with additional needs across Ireland. One of our goals as a company is to provide our All Systems Go local weekly sensory groups to as many children as possible, supporting them with all over sensory development, skills and a chance to explore and socialise together. I am committed to providing support to children in schools via our workshops for special schools, early intervention and ASD units, providing sensory play workshops to adults in rehabilitation groups and daycare centres, and to enrich the days of Alzheimer and dementia patients through scent and touch. Assisting teachers and SNAs with teaching and sensory play and how to bring it into their classrooms safely. Helping parents through our sensory play courses, encouraging sensory play at home and the benefits it can provide through our specially curated mindfulness mornings for parents and caregivers of children and adults with additional needs. Burnout in parents and caregivers has to be spoken about more and needs more awareness. Our sole focus as a company is improving and supporting the mental well-being of both children and adults throughout the whole spectrum of life, from the first year to the last years. Our course for parents, caregivers, teachers, SNAs, and anyone else living or working with autistic children or children with additional needs have been specifically designed with the aforementioned waiting list figures in mind. Understanding the sensory systems, why sensory play forms a vital component of development for our children, and how to bring sensory play into your home or school, learning how to incorporate it into daily routines gives you an insight and helps you understand what your child needs to fill their daily sensory buckets. Being able to identify what your child or the child in your class is seeking is key to keeping them regulated throughout the day. It is an interactive course with practical exercises and is delivered over half a day. For the past 18 months, Little Kneaders have also been providing schools, rehabilitation care centres, charities and events around Ireland with our workshops. Our All Systems Go workshops are a full sensory experience for children or adults. Every piece of equipment or toy has been carefully thought out, researched and included to encourage regulation, social skills and provide sensory input. A mixture of sensory bins and occupational therapy games designed to encourage children and adults to relax, explore and enjoy sensory play in an environment that doesn't remind them of therapy or medical appointments. The Make Your Own Dough workshops are great fun with a chance for those attending to make their own decisions about colours, scents and textures, their own special sensory tool that they can bring home and use when feeling overwhelmed. Teaching children and adults how to use dough to regulate, to relax and knead their feelings into it. It is during these workshops that there have been so many poignant moments that have defined why I do what I do. A non-verbal child singing Rain, Rain, Go Away with another child in the workshop for the first time after a huge speech regression. Eye contact, a high five and a leaning their head against mine to say goodbye from a child that I have met many times but had never actually acknowledged me prior to that. A child with strong food aversions playing with vegetables and trying to eat them. An unexpected hug from a lady who has always disliked contact. I have never ever left a workshop without a full heart and a huge smile on my face. To be able to give something to the children and adults who teach me so much on a daily basis is incredible, and I feel so privileged and honoured to work with all of them. Last year, Little Kneaders collaborated with Ground Wellbeing, an exceptional Irish company who produced the most incredible products for self-care. Together we created a range of 3 natural therapy doughs to help children and adults with additional needs improve their mental well-being. Using therapy dough has a range of benefits, including being able to slow a racing heart rate and mind, encourage deep breaths to regulate the system, refocus the mind to the hands, and release tension from the body and mind. It can also be used as a tool to help keep our hands busy and our minds focused. The therapy doughs are now used by cancer care centres, mental health facilities, schools and rehabilitation facilities throughout the US, the UK and Ireland. Our calm dough was specifically created to promote feelings of calmness at the end of the day for children and adults who find it really difficult to unwind. It is scented with Ground Wellbeing sleep oil and encourages the mind to empty to the hands through pinching, squeezing and rolling to help with restful, peaceful sleep. Our uplifting dough was designed for adults and children to encourage focus and to awaken the mind. It is our morning dough, the one to use before school or work, to help with periods of agitation and to bring the mind into the day. Our Soothe dough has been specifically designed for those living with cancer and in active cancer treatment. It is the only dough globally that is safe to use whilst receiving chemotherapy and radiation. It is now used by patients in cancer care centres around the world. The range of therapy doughs were created to become a constant companion to those who need them. Small enough to be brought to school, fit in handbags or carried in the hand to places you might need some extra support. With support and well-being at the front of what Little Kneaders is, I want to support parents, schools and anyone else caring for or working with autistic or disabled children and adults. So I have organised the South East Autism and Disability Resource Fair, which is taking place in May with over 40 psychologists, therapists, activity providers, companies and product suppliers. This will be an opportunity for you to talk face-to-face with our vendors, ask questions, buy products and to see what is available for you, your child or the adult you care for, the school or service that you provide. The one condition of our resource fair was that the therapists and activity providers attending must have the facility to be able to take on new clients. I want to support parents and caregivers in gaining access to what is available to them. The rest of the year is very exciting for us. Our main goal being to open our new Little Kneaders therapy suite to provide access to an occupational therapist and a speech and language therapist to those in the South East. I will be hosting workshops for parents, schools, therapists and health professionals at the Global Wellness Initiative Children's Mental Health Symposium, which is taking place in Dublin in May, focusing on what we can do to improve the mental well-being of children with additional needs. We will be restarting our All Systems Go Sensory Weekly Group in Carlow next Wednesday in a much bigger venue, which will provide access to a weekly activity for local children and also launching our weekly group in Tipperary in the next couple of weeks. Support, knowledge and inclusion are three things that are very achievable for our children. A huge thank you to Autism Heroes for organising today's fantastic event and for the opportunity of speaking to you all.
Does anybody have any questions for Amy before we move on to our next speaker? Anyone? Don't be shy. Yeah, okay, so if you're too shy, it's okay. Amy is available for the remainder of the afternoon anyway, if anybody's any questions that you may have. Thank you very much, Amy. Our next speaker then is Jessie from Inspired by Autism. Jessie, if you'd like to make your way up. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, so my name is Jessie and I'm going to be sharing with you some of my tips for supporting autistic children in the classroom. I know we have some teachers and SNAs here, but I'm also aware there are a lot of parents, so hopefully everyone can pick something up. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about me while we're waiting. So I am a special needs teacher. I teach in a school for children with autism or complex needs in Dublin, and I've been working with autistic children for 11 years now, from as young as 16 months old up to young adults in their early 20s. I also have founded the page Inspired by Autism, which started out as an Instagram account and has developed into, I now have a website where I design and create and sell educational resources and visual supports and teaching guides for autistic kids. So you'll see some of this stuff in the stand and ask me any questions. I'll speak now. Technology. I vaguely remember the first slide, so I'll get started. So I'm just going to go through some of my kind of top tips. And the first one would be is to think about desirability. And so you need to make your students want to be there and make our students want to be part of our classroom. And how do we do that? By building relationships, find out what our students love, find out what their special interests are, find out what it is that they enjoy spending their time doing, and do that with them. So I would always find out if I'm starting with a new class or if I have new students coming in, I would always find out what their interest is and try to have that ready for day one. So if I have a student who loves Minecraft, you're meeting them in the morning with a Minecraft book, you're wearing a Minecraft t-shirt, you're playing Minecraft with them. So they know that you're interested in what they're interested in, and that you want to spend time with them. Think about your classroom environment. Is it comfortable for them? Is it sensory friendly? Thinking about your lighting, noise, distractions, visuals on the walls, that it's not too overwhelming, not too much going on. And thinking about the relationships in the classroom and making it so that they want to be there, that it's a fun place to be, is always a good start. Making it. Sorry. Yes. It's in my bag just behind one of the shopping bags. Sorry. I'll keep going. Kind of have it learned off. My next kind of tip then would be predictability. So we all know most autistic people like things to be the same, be consistent, be predictable. So you're going to make it that your classroom is predictable. Do your students know what to expect when they come in the mornings? Do they know what's going to happen each day? Do they know if there's new events coming up, if there's new people coming into the classroom, new experiences, making it predictable so that they can achieve success. So I suppose preparing them for change, how do I do that? Social studies is quite good for preparing for change.
Sorry.
Two more. Sorry. The next one then, so think visual schedules, whether that's an individual schedule per child on the board, whether it's some students might not need the pictures, words can be just as good, a whiteboard, they can write up their own schedules in the morning, set up routines. So have, obviously in classrooms, busy schools, things are always going to be changing, but having something consistent that every morning when we come to school, we all start with, whether that's morning circle in my school, kids drop off their bags and we have a track opposite school, so we go for a morning run. And just having that element of consistency, especially in the mornings, I think that they can predict, hey, when I get to school, I know what's going to happen, I'm going to check my schedule and then I'll know how the rest of the day will run. And preparing for change. So if you do know something's coming up and something's going to change, trying to prepare them as much as possible in advance. And by doing all of this, you're going to build trust. By being consistent, you're going to build their trust. And then once you have their trust, you can do so much more. Visuals. Visuals are a big part of what I do. I use visuals for everything. I quite like this here. We often think if a student is not responding or a child's not responding, we think, oh, I need to repeat myself. They're not listening. They're not hearing me. I need to talk louder. They're not understanding. I need to talk slower. They're not looking at me. I need to get their eye contact. When in reality, a lot of the time, none of that works and can actually overstimulate our students. And so visual supports are so much clearer. We use Carrie Lanyards in school. This is kind of fallen apart because it's so used. But sometimes simply, if you want the student to wait, just flashing the card rather than repeating. And then the visual's there and they know what to expect and they know what they need to do. So why do we use visual supports? So words are temporary, visuals are constant. Using wait as an example, if you want the student to wait, you might ask them to wait, but you're gone 2 minutes and they've forgotten what they're supposed to be doing, whereas having a visual in place, it's constant, it's there, it's a reminder. Provides structure, allows for predictability, just giving them that bit of sense of control over their day, which then again, all of this will reduce anxiety, reduce frustration. Visuals are also great for teaching and increasing students' independence. So I would use visuals a lot for all of my lessons, really, for cooking, step by step, things like washing hands, showering. We do a lot of life skills in our school. But by having the visuals in place, you can fade out the adult. So if you're there all the time telling them the next step and the next step, it's very hard to fade you out. Whereas having the visual there, they might learn to follow the visual and not need your support, and then you can fade yourself out quicker. And alternative means of communication, yeah. So for students who are not yet speaking, whether that's picture exchange or AAC devices, it's a very simple way of teaching alternative communication. So not just visual schedules. So often when we hear visuals, everyone thinks, yeah, I have a visual schedule in place, and that's great if you do, but there's so much more, and visuals can be used for so much more. Social stories in particular are great for, as I was saying, preparing for change, new events, explaining concepts, teaching things like how to make a friend, what to do if I feel anxious, preparing students for school trips or at home, whether that's preparing them for what's going to happen at Christmas, what's going to happen, where we're going on holidays. First then boards again can be used similar to visual schedules as a transition tool. Visual choice boards. Choice boards again can be used a lot of the time. People will have in place visual choice boards for students or children who are non-speaking. But they actually can be quite good for children who can speak also. It's particularly in times of distress, if the student is distressed, maybe can't find the words, just having the visual support in place sometimes can be easier and quicker for them to explain what they need. Communication prompts, and that's a lot of what we would have on our lanyards, nearly as reminders for students. So, for example, I have one here that says, I want to leave. So for a student who maybe finds a busy classroom quite difficult, or doesn't like crowds, doesn't like loud noises, you can catch it very quickly by reminding them you just need to ask if we can leave, rather than letting things go too far or trying to use words and be like, do you want to leave? And they're already struggling. Simply flashing the card can be so much easier, and just a good reminder for them, to have on their desks even as well. I said alternative communication, yeah. Task analysis, yeah, so washing hands, visual recipes, and token economy systems, yeah, so positive reinforcement and that as well. This is quite an important one that I talk about a lot in my classroom, and in our school as a whole, thinking about how much language we use, and sometimes less is more. We speak a lot in the classroom, in everyday life. And if you think about in particular so I'm in a special school, so I work in a classroom, I have 6 kids and 4 SNAs, so 5 adults, 6 kids. And so if you think of that classroom, they're listening to 5 adults speaking to different students. They've got students in the classroom maybe who are vocally stimming, who are moving on their chairs, jumping up and down. And you think of all that background noise that they're trying to process and filter out while also listening to your verbal instruction and what you're telling them to do. And while verbal instruction, yes, is important, we just need to make our instructions more clear, more short, more filter out all the unnecessary language. No, it's okay. Yeah, so think about being that child that trying to listen to and follow your instructions while also filtering everything out. Vocals are not always necessary. Sometimes you can use your visuals, use gesture, facial expression. For example, if a student who is quite sensitive to noise, and your automatic reaction when a child achieves something is to be like, yay, wow. But his first reaction would be hands over his ears, and you think you're being great and praising him. But just being conscious of that as well, that a simple thumbs up or a high five can be enough for some students as well. Movement. So we all know autistic kids need to move and like to move a lot. I like to move a lot. I'm swaying and fidgeting. But yeah, movement helps our students to regulate their bodies, which then will allow them to attend, participate, and be an active part of the classroom. Movement breaks should be both scheduled and spontaneous. So yes, it's great to have scheduled movement breaks throughout the day to break up lessons, break up your teaching, but also they need to be available to students when they need them. You can't always plan when a student is going to need to get up and move. So letting them know that they can ask for a movement break when they need it, and that you're also there to offer to them if you see the signs that they need to. And being conscious that for some students, something as simple as walking to another classroom, delivering some books, some heavy books, or carrying a bag to the principal's office might be enough. But for other students, they might need, or for some students just at different times of day, they might need more intense movement and exercise. We have little fitness exercise trampolines in school, gym balls. We've also got a treadmill, we're very lucky to have all of that. But some of our students do need that, and it's that kind of movement that sometimes maybe in the morning before they start their day that sets them up right through the day. Think about your adaptations, so things like flexible seating. Do students always need to be seated for lessons and activities? And no, they don't. A lot of the time they can attend better and listen and focus better when their bodies are moving. So you can use sitting desks, wobble cushions. One of my students just uses like a little study desk chair that has wheels, and just by being able to move the chair back and forth, that seems to help him. And then fidget toys. You obviously need to find the right fidget toy. Some fidget toys can just be more distraction, but when you find the right one for a student, it can really help them to participate and attend. Keeps their hands busy. And allows them to be active in the lesson. Parent-teacher communication is so important in all schools, between for all children, but particularly for our students who may have limited communication skills. And it really kind of goes both ways. So for me as a teacher, getting a message from a parent in the morning about how the child has slept, if they've eaten, their general mood, those three things are the main ones. Just means that I can set up that child for success that day. If I know the student is awake from 3 a.m. or maybe isn't eating this morning or has already had a meltdown, had a tough morning, I'm not going to go in with their toughest activity or the most difficult lesson starting off the day. We're going to allow for more rest. We're going to be more conscious that they're having a hard time. So from parents, and then obviously vice versa, if I can communicate to you as a parent that your child has had a tough day or that they haven't eaten today, whatever it is, then you know when they come home, okay, today's not the day to go to super value, when they find super value very difficult. How do I do that? These are just some general ones. It depends on your school. We use homeschool diaries, photos, notes, IEP meetings, phone calls. It's a good idea as well as parents. I love to get an insight into how home life is. A lot of our students will come on buses to school, so we don't see parents a lot. And things might be happening in the classroom, and it's only then when you link back with parents that you find out, okay, mom is away or brother has moved out, or things like that can just make such a big difference to the student's day and how they get on in school. So it's always good to pass on that kind of information. This is just a sample. It's not very nice one. We have a lovely pretty one in school with pictures and stuff I can't share because I didn't design it. But even just something simple like this, that it's quick for classrooms are busy, that it's quick that the teacher can just take, okay, he's eaten today, he's in good form, this is what we did at group time, this is what he enjoyed, and how, if they've used the bathroom, they haven't, and then to the side parents just take, yes or no, have they eaten, how's their general form, and how their sleep was, and it just allows to set your child up for success. Functional communication training. So just because I cannot speak doesn't mean I have nothing to say, and our students have so much to say. And we want them to be able to spontaneously and independently let us know their basic needs, their wants, their desires, in a way that's understood by others. So often as I get this even in the classroom, but parents, you will understand your child. You might know a certain sound means this, or a certain gesture means I want to go to the playground, or I want to go to the garden, or I want a biscuit. But it's really important to have some sort of functional system in place that allows other people who maybe don't know your child to understand. Whether that's pictures, love, sign, different communication devices. But this would kind of be one of my first things that I would teach when I get a new student in school. Teach them how to communicate in a way that they're understood by others. This is my second thing I would teach. So coping strategies. So we all need coping strategies to get through life, to manage day-to-day upsets and changes. And one of the most important things you can do for them is to teach them those skills. They'll be specific to each child, so you need to sit back and observe whether that's your child or your student, what seems to have a naturally calming effect on them, what seems to reduce stress for them and bring them comfort. These are just some ideas of what works for some students. If you see on the right there, so all of my students will have on their desk a calm down toolkit, and in that they'd have some visual supports to help them with it, and they'd also have all of the tools that I know help them to calm down when they're stressed or upset. Deep breathing, grounding techniques, requesting to leave a room or requesting a break. And the requesting part is really important as well, because you're not always going to, maybe as a parent you will be very aware when you spot the early signs of your child getting upset, but not everyone is going to be as clued into that. So it's really important that they learn to request themselves, to communicate, I need to leave, I can't cope with this, I need to go and take a break. Sensory toys, again, for some students they will work, for others they won't. Listening to music, maybe a quiet space, chill out area, calm corner. Ear defenders, again, it's really good to teach children to request them, and that might be simply by just having a visual on your lanyard or your pocket or on your phone or wherever it is as a parent. And when you can see it's loud or they're starting to get overwhelmed, showing it to them and reminding them, oh, do you want your ear defenders? And it just reminds them that they can ask for it rather than just putting it on for them. Because again, you're not always going to be aware when noise is starting to trigger. So yeah, sit back and observe the child and what has a naturally calming effect on them and what brings them comfort. And then time, I think Louise, you shared this on the Instagram page the other day. I can't say this right either, but the Maori word for autism is takiwatanga, which means in his or her own time and space. So our students can achieve, they can learn, they can make progress, but they might just sometimes take a little bit longer. So what they need is our persistence, our patience, our perseverance to help them and support them through it. From a school kind of point of view, and also as parents, a good way to keep everybody motivated is to break down your long-term goals into more short-term, more achievable goals. So say, for example, sorry, take a breath. So say, for example, your long-term goal is that Johnny will put on his shoes and tie his laces in the morning before going to school. Your first goal in that whole process might be, okay, the first thing we're working on is that Johnny will go and get his shoes when he's asked to or when you say it's time to go. Your next goal might be Johnny will get his shoes and he'll be able to match them to the correct foot. Then Johnny will put on his shoes, and then finally Johnny will learn to tie his shoes. By just breaking it down, I know I see it in the classroom, by just breaking it down into smaller goals, even for staff working with students, and for parents, when I feed back to parents, okay, they've achieved objective 2, now we're moving on to objective 3. It just keeps everyone motivated, and it gives you that kind of boost that they're making progress rather than he's still not tying his laces, he's still not tying his laces, but he is making progress, you're just not there yet, and you've aimed too high from the start. And then finally, listen to them. So above all else, listen to them. Everything our students do is communication. Everything, there's so many other ways to communicate than with words. So by just watching, observing, listening to them, you're going to learn so much from them. And once you listen and hear their voices, I don't think you can go too far wrong. So, that's me. I hope you got something from it. I didn't ramble on for too long. If anyone would like to ask any questions, you can do now. You'll find my website, inspiredbyautism.org, or my Instagram page is the same as well. So if anyone wants to ask me any questions afterwards, or maybe more specific ones about your child, you can contact me. Thank you.
So any questions for Jessie? No, no. Okay, well look, she, you know how to contact her if you have anything you would like to personally discuss with Jessie. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was really informative, thank you. Okay, so I suppose today would not be possible without our wonderful exhibitors. So we have 10, I think in total, who offer a range of services for all various different needs. So we have Little Kneaders, we have Hidden Disabilities, we have Happy Trails, Rainbow Healing, Cottage Autism Network, Inspired by Autism, Shamrock Squad Adventures, Keeks, Advocates for Autism, and from 3 o'clock, which is just in a couple of minutes, we will have a lady called Jacinta, who is a child play therapist, and she is available to have a discussion with anyone who is interested in play therapy for their child. So when Jacinta gets here, hopefully we'll be able to make her known to everyone in the room. So I suppose, thank you everyone for your attention, and thank you to our wonderful speakers. It was really informative and well put together. Thank you, Katrina. So as well, I suppose people just to thank as well. So the Talbot Hotel, they've been so helpful to us and very accommodating. We have other sponsors and donors as well. So Carlow Development Partnership, Black Knight Solutions, Bonnie's Bakes, Balloons and Sweet Treats, and ASAP Printing, all who have really helped to make this event be so successful. Ben is down the end of the room, and I think there's a donation bucket going around for anyone who'd like to make a donation just to help keep this or I don't know, Autism Heroes. Yeah, Autism Heroes, sorry, I'm blank there. Just to help us get off the ground. So thank you all very much. So please feel free to have tea and coffee and refreshments at the back of the room, and now's your time as well, if you haven't already got to do so, to go and speak to any of the exhibitors that have interest for you. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you at the next event. Thank you.